once again. Sometimes when it's doing its thing and about to come alive, it really hangs, and I'm saying, is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? Well, of course it's going to happen. It's just that it doesn't always happen at the same rate every time, which is a little bit odd. But I am so grateful for technology. I'm grateful that we have this ability to actually broadcast things live, which is kind of cool. And also to record it in different platforms so that different people can watch it. And of course, the thing is that every meaning, every reading has got a different meaning to somebody else. And every person who reads it in a different way. You know, my background is I'm an engineer, and I guess still think like an engineer. Yes, I'm trained to be a minister. I went through extensive training, literally years of training, and going through different programs, including a master's level program. But even so, my basic training for years has been to think like an engineer, and also to think like a lawyer, because one of my jobs throughout most of my life was either writing contracts or supervising people who were writing contracts and negotiating contracts. So those two things form a big part of my background, which also you can see when I talk. And I'm also a Toastmaster, which means that I'm used to speaking in front of crowds, small and large, which I like doing, which is kind of cool. Right now it's a little bit warm in here because what's the temperature? The temperature outside actually is it's way up there. It's 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pushing 30 degrees Celsius, which is getting a little bit warm for towards the end of April. I got the door closed and I got my AirPods in. Why? Because my wife is next door in our living room. She's playing Scrabble with some friends. They've got this 70s or 80s music on, 60s, 70s, 80s music on, which is pretty loud. So these things kind of tone it down a little bit. After that long introduction, here we go. Oops, darn it. Here we go, today's reading. I'm not sure that I like the title. By the way, the title is going to be the same as the affirmation for once. I've never seen that before. And to my way of thinking, where I was brought up, it's a little bit odd, but anyway, here we go. It's called I Know When I Know That I Got It. I would say I know when I know that I have got it. But there we are. First quote is from a famous philosopher of old, Friedrich Nietzsche. And he says, all those who were seen dancing were thought to be crazy by those who could not hear the music. And while that might seem kind of flippant in a way, if you think about it, it applies to lots of areas in life where somebody's doing something, somebody doesn't know why they're doing it, they think they're nuts or just stupid, until they find out. The Science of Mind textbook is where our next quote comes from, Ernest Holmes. It's on page 70, sort of towards the beginning of the book, because it's a thick book. The spirit, being self-conscious life, knows and cannot stop knowing. So, in other words, the all, the divine, spirit, whatever you want to call it, always has to know. It does know, and it continues knowing, because that's its nature. Its nature is to know. So now I'm going to read the rest of it, and then I'll come back and comment. There's a story about a young student just starting his schooling whose teacher's lesson for the class was how to draw a straight line, like the number 1. As the other students moved on to the next assignment, curved lines, this student wholeheartedly continued practicing the first design, the straight line, that is. After a couple of days, the student still had not moved on from the straight line, practicing drawing the number 1 for weeks. Eventually, the teacher sent the student home, saying he was making a mockery of the lessons by refusing to learn. At home, he continued on the same design until his parents were fed up. This child would say, I have not yet mastered this lesson. And he continued to practice. The other kids moved on to the next grade, as the teacher and parents gave up this child. He would go off into the woods, getting lost for days at a time while practicing this straight line lesson. Eventually, the boy returned to the school. Upon seeing the teacher, he proclaimed that he finally had mastered the lesson. He said he would show the teacher by drawing the straight line on the wall. When he did, the wall split in two. In the flash of realization, what you see as possible, others may not see. Do not allow others' limited vision to convince you to conform to their ways, just because it might be easier or quicker. From the giant, or the overarching, if you like, perspective, there is a gentle knowing. All things are possible when we consciously connect with the one, capital letters. So obviously this story is not a factual one. It's simply a myth. And as we said before, a myth doesn't mean to say something's not true. It just means it's not factually correct, but it's got a message. Underlying every myth, there is a truth that actually provides us with a message. And the message here, as you probably gleaned, is don't let anyone rain on your parade. If you really have got a good idea and you want to pursue it, then you should do so and not bother what anybody else tells you. Why? Because each and every single one of us is different. We all think differently. We speak to some extent differently. I do from most of the people around here. It was pointed out at Toastmasters yesterday that when is Davey going to lose his British accent? And the answer was never. But the fact is this, that each and every one of us has got abilities that other people don't have. And each and every one of us has got a different lens through which we perceive the world. We got a different way of looking at the world. And our way may be different than someone else's, but it doesn't mean to say that it's right or wrong. You know, I've mentioned before, when I'm at the gym, I look around at people and I see some people have got really good form. And you know what that means? It means that they are using the equipment in the prescribed manner. And other people are apparently not using it correctly. For instance, instead of just using their legs or particularly their arms on pieces of equipment, they will actually use their body weight to move the weight, where the machine is designed for you to, you know, sort of pull down or pull this way or different ways in order to exercise your muscles. But the thing is, nobody knows what's inside the head of that person who's using the equipment unless they ask them, because this person who's apparently using this machine incorrectly and going back with their back, they may actually be using it deliberately to exercise another set of muscles that the machine was never originally intended to be designed for, but works very well with it. And then it dawned on me the other day that every single person who is in that gym, and I might have mentioned this actually, deserves credit just for being there. Just for the simple fact that they have taken the trouble and the time and made the effort to be in that place in order to physically improve themselves or improve themselves physically. So everybody deserves credit. And as I said, unless you actually go and ask somebody why they're using a machine that way, you don't know. One of my friends, he's a perfectionist, and he's the one who pushed all this equipment usage into my head, and he's experienced. He knows what he's doing. He went through the whole training to be an instructor. He didn't do it. He's a chemical engineer, but he knows exactly what the equipment's intended for and how to use it. But even he doesn't know why that person on that machine is using that machine in that particular way. So the whole message here is this, that your way of doing something may be completely different than somebody else's, but you may have an insight that nobody else has got. and therefore pursue it, because we're all gifted differently. We're all born with different gifts. We all develop different gifts. We all have something to offer to the world. And let's face it, if we were all the same, it would be incredibly boring. If we all looked the same, if we all acted the same, if we all spoke in the same manner, if we all responded to everything the same way, it would be a really, really boring world, wouldn't it? So that's really it. The affirmation, he says, I know when I know that I got it. I know when I know that I've got it. And the kid here got it, split the wall. Is it a fact? No, probably not. Highly, incredibly unlikely that it is. But you never know in this universe. Maybe there is some physical law out there that says that's possible. But anyway, there it is. So this is my offering for today. Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning. Oh, she will be on tomorrow morning. And just remember this, that, you know, all of us go through different things. And when we need prayer, we ask for it. You know, my practitioner friends, my minister friends, when they need prayer, they ask for it. So if you need prayer, and we're putting together a prayer team to better respond, when you need prayer for something, physical, material, spiritual, mental, doesn't matter, ask us. We will pray for you. We will have people who will listen to you. And if we think you need to talk to a counselor or someone else, well, we'll recommend that too, because we will not go beyond our training. We will not try to do something we're not trained to do, because that won't do you any good and do us any good. So those are my messages for today. I enjoyed the reading, even though it's kind of a little bit obscure in a way, but there you are then. So remember, Reverend Lisa tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and I'll be back tomorrow evening. I'm sure I can get back around about 5. If not, well, I'll be back sometime tomorrow evening. And I really do. I enjoy doing these readings. Sometimes I have to drag myself here if it's been a rough day, but once I get into the reading, and once I get speaking about it, I really like it. And that's really all I got to say. So please remember to do this. Please, please take care of yourselves, because the only way that you can help someone else is if you've taken care of yourself first. So remember, the light of the all surrounds us, and the love of the all enfolds us, and the power of the all protects us, and the presence of the all watches over us, because everywhere we are, Spirit is, and all is well. Until next time, Namaste.